accept that there's something wrong in the system if a local authority can build a tower block costing £85 million in Barking without anyone recognising that the lack of a backup electricity supply means the sprinkler system and firefighters' lifts won't work.
If that is the case, and those are the facts, then it is indeed unacceptable. Yeah, the system hasn't worked by the sound of it.
Those facts are accepted by Barking and Dagenham Council's cabinet. What went wrong there? How is it? I just don't understand how it's possible. If the commissioner earlier spoke about how you've got a localised approach, that you work on a borough risk management basis, and you yourself, Deputy Mayor, said there should be high standards of fire safety. How is it possible that this building was built? I don't understand the processes. What processes must have failed?
I honestly can't say that this is something I could unpack in this meeting, and it's not something that, yeah.
I accept that because there's a lot of detail behind here, because it's not just that building. We also have a situation where £38 million was spent on a warehouse which is unsafe for the storage of anything, really, anything above 1 metre to 1.2 metres. And yet it was built, and that is actually operating. So what I'm asking you is to look at what's going on in Barking and Dagenham that means we have such an appalling record of adherence to the fire safety standards. And I'd appreciate it if you could investigate that and write to me about it.
I'm certainly happy to look into this, and I would be keen to secure you a response to this. But I just hesitate slightly to kind of to articulate what that kind of response is going to is going to look like, because this is a hugely broad area and does not just affect Barking and Dagenham, and it's an area that many of us in this room have talked about previously. I mean, this goes to the heart of the tragedy of Grenfell, how someone can design something that effectively was creating chimneys internal chimneys up the side of the building, funneling fire into each flat, moving fire breaks, and actually having the fire breaks beyond the curtilage of the flats and being able to drive fire all the way up the inside. You know, it beggars belief how regulation has allowed that to happen, and it's just the same exactly in the two examples that you gave.
I do agree with you, but this building was finished only 3 years ago, post Grenfell, post the lessons of Grenfell, and it's shocking to me that we can still be building those kind of buildings, those unsafe death traps. Commissioner, again, I don't expect you to have this there in your memory, but what I would like to know is, on what occasions did Barking and Dagenham Council make any attempt to reach out to the LFB before investing in this £85 million project and the £38 million warehouse?
Well, I think, as you'll appreciate, I would need to look into the detail of this particular case, given what you've outlined. You know, my instinctive reaction, given the information that you've provided, is one of concern. But I think, to give you the due respect and the necessary information, I will need to take that away. But I'm happy, Chair, with your permission, to write back with that full detail so that we can understand the chronology of this particular incident, so that you've got all of the information you require. But I don't have that to hand at the moment.
Of course you don't. I don't expect
you
to have that to hand, but I really would appreciate an analysis of how we ended up where we are, because it's appalling. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Assembly Member Georgia, you've indicated, is it related to this bit? Yes, so let's take you in at this stage. Yep.
Thank you, and for what it's worth, Mr. Chairman, in response to Assembly Member Cooper, I wouldn't mind if the Lord Bailey threw me over his shoulder in the event of a fire. But anyway,
I think that's a personal matter.
I don't want to get rumours kicking off around the chamber. Mr. He's shuddering at the thought. I'm not that heavy,
left
Sean.
The room in desperation.
Right.
Look, poor guy.
So, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I just want to bring to your attention, there was obviously a planning application that you would have been aware of that passed Barnet Council, which was the Edgware station situation. Obviously, the LFB had a lot to say about it. 29 stories for colleagues that don't know, 3,000 units, and obviously there were major concerns over the possibility, the certainty of when moving the terminal, that the electric buses would go underneath the site, which obviously would cause a serious, effectively, some wording was used where the LFB effectively said this could be catastrophic if there were issues with the buses. I want to know, in your mind, or possibility with the London plan, where the line is drawn on safety and LFB advice when it comes to applications like these.
Well, I mean, on this particular application, I mean, the TfL and the LFB have good working relationship on this, and they're meeting regularly to discuss this particular project. And everyone is determined that it meets absolutely the highest levels of fire safety, and that obviously will help inform any policy going forward on this. But as you can absolutely appreciate, it's kind of exploring new ground and this would apply. Not as much, but it would also equally apply to any underground garage today, and the increasing likelihood that it would be filled with electric cars. Clearly, electric buses have large batteries and pose a greater risk, but it's still on a scale. And this is something that I think we have to address. If obviously it needs to be something that's to do with kind of the built form and building regulations. It really only becomes a planning issue, and whether this should have rules around it in planning if we're failing to deal with it in terms of built form and the technological approach.
I'm not getting into I'm not looking to revisit the scheme. It's been decided. But
I'm talking generally. Sorry, I'm talking generally.
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I'm not even getting into a debate around planning necessarily. I'm just trying to understand, because generally blue light services are generally reticent when it comes to planning applications. Very rarely do they comment, and very rarely do they issue such stark warnings. So I'm trying to understand from you where the line is drawn, where we say to the developer, or you using a bit of soft power, look, can you just please go away, look at moving things here or there. This application's passed now, but perhaps conversations could have been had where, how do we improve this so future residents don't feel nervous?
It has been passed by committee, but it hasn't been referred to the GLA for its Stage 2 decision yet. I believe the conversations are ongoing about this very issue, and the GLA and planning wouldn't seek to progress this until the brigade are satisfied.
That's the answer. Thank you, sir. No. I'm very grateful, and
sorry,
I'm sure.
I thought you'd moved on to the general, but actually,
I'm nothing but consistent, Mr. Deputy Mayor. But thank you so much for your response. I'm sure residents will be very happy with it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Assembly Member Ahmed.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Deputy Mayor. Good morning, Commissioner, and welcome. Commissioner, obviously you're aware of the move of the fire brigade back to the 8 Albert embankment and the refurbishments that are taking place there. And as the Assembly Member for the area, I'm obviously delighted to welcome you there. Could you update the Assembly on the works and the refurbishment that are happening at the moment, and a potential date for your go in there?
No, thank you for the question. I mean, we're still waiting on the final planning permission, which we're hoping is not going to be too far away, and we're as confident as we can be that we will have the planning permission accepted, because obviously, essentially, this is a return to its original use. It's a bit of a Back to the Future project, this one. But as I was saying at the Budget and Performance Committee in December last year, for me, this is a huge legacy project for the London Fire Brigade to go back to our traditional home. You know, this is the history that sits around, and this isn't a nostalgic project. It absolutely is built on a very, very good business case. But we've needed to update the fire station there for some time. You know, the site itself has been in a state of disrepair for far too long for a whole host of reasons. So for us to be able to move this forward now, to have our headquarters building, a brand new fire station, an exhibition space, some of our museum exhibits will also be able to be there. There'll be a real community space as well. I think is going to be one of the most exciting projects the brigade has been engaged with for the last generation, actually. And the fact that we own it, the fact that our destiny is in our own hands, but for me it's also the operational element that comes with it, to have a working fire station with our headquarters facility on the edge of the government security zone, given all the risk that comes with that, I think is a significant improvement in terms of the safety and capability that exists within that area. Now, in terms of the timeframes, we've got to really be out of Union Street by sort of October, November this year, and we'll be looking to move into an interim accommodation at the moment, and we're very close to getting that signed and agreed. In terms of the timeframes, we're looking at a 2.5 to 3 year project. You know, if we're being really ambitious, it would be great to be in there towards the end of 2028. I'm realistic. With any large construction project, you know, there could be issues that present themselves once we actually start to get under the skin of the building. More realistically, I think you're looking mid-2029 before we're actually going to be in there and the building is going to be operational. But I am really, really pleased that we're going to be in this position. You know, the history of that site is phenomenal. A bunker where Winston Churchill used to talk to the auxiliary fire service during the Second World War, a memorial hall that honours all London firefighters who have lost their lives. You know, that is something significant, but there's also an operational imperative why the move is the right one. But the business case also stacks up. It went through significant scrutiny for reasons which you'll appreciate, and I think this is one of those fantastic legacy projects that's going to set the organisation up for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
I mean, the issue here, the issue here isn't just about one isolated failure, is it? Because if we're now seeing a pattern where multiple developments are being approved and constructed without what most people would consider basic safety compliance, then clearly something deeper is going wrong within the system itself. And I have to say, I find it quite difficult to understand how we can have regulations in place, we can have oversight bodies, we can have inspections, and yet somehow these buildings are still being signed off as safe. I mean, where exactly is the breakdown happening? Is it at the planning stage? Is it during construction? Or is it at the final approval process? Because if what we're hearing is accurate, that there are residential buildings where essential systems either don't function properly or weren't adequately tested, then that raises serious concerns. Not just about one council or one authority, but about the broader regulatory framework that's supposed to prevent exactly this kind of situation. And you know, you mentioned earlier the importance of maintaining high safety standards. I completely agree with that. But standards only matter if they're actually enforced. Otherwise, they're just words on paper. So I suppose what I'm trying to understand is this. How do we move from having standards in theory to ensuring they are consistently applied in practice? Because right now, from what we're seeing, there appears to be a significant gap between the two. And it's not just about buildings either. We're talking about public trust. Because when people move into these properties, they assume, quite reasonably, that everything has been checked, everything has been verified, and everything is safe. If that assumption turns out to be wrong, then the consequences are not just technical, they're human. Yes, and I completely understand the concern you're raising here. Right, but with respect, understanding the concern isn't really enough, is it? Because we've had similar discussions before. We've had reports, we've had reviews, and yet here we are again, talking about failures that, frankly, should not be happening in the first place. So what I'd really like to see is a clear explanation, not necessarily today, but at least in due course, about what specific steps are going to be taken to ensure this doesn't keep happening. Because without that, it's very difficult to reassure residents, and it's very difficult to have confidence in the system. I appreciate that, and I think it's fair to say, and just one more point, if I may, this isn't about assigning blame to individuals. It's about identifying systemic weaknesses. Because if the system allows these kinds of oversights, then it's the system that needs to be fixed. So I would strongly urge you to conduct a thorough review, not just of the specific cases we've mentioned, but of the processes as a whole. And if possible, provide a detailed response outlining what went wrong and what corrective actions will be implemented going forward. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a technical issue. It's a matter of safety, accountability, and public confidence. And those are things we simply cannot afford to compromise on.